It's Bulletproof Monday, everyone. I hope you are doing amazing. If you are here live, I want to acknowledge you. I know many of you carve out this time to be here with me every single Monday. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I want to commend you too. And if this content is awesome, I would invite you to share it. Today, I'm going to talk about how to become a disruptor in a good way. And why do you even want to be a disruptor? So with that, my name is Susan Sly. I am a trainer, speaker, author, tech investor, and my goal with these Bulletproof Mondays is really to inspire you to take your life to the next level. So with that, I want to get right into it. It's Martin Luther King Day today, and I want to open with a quote from Mr. Martin Luther King himself, which is, "Every man," and I'm sure if it was current times he'd say, or woman, "every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness." And so I want you to really think about that for a moment, because how often when we're living inside our comfort zone is it actually selfish, right? So when we're not giving it our all, when we're not taking it to the next level, who's suffering? You know, maybe your kids aren't going to the schools they deserve to. Maybe, your partner in life is feeling your stress. Maybe your community isn't benefiting because there are all sorts of things you could do if you were making more money or you had more energy to volunteer. And so the term disruptor, really what that's about is it's a person who's fearless. It's a person who's going for their goals. It's a person who does all this without really and truly caring about the negative opinions of others. So I'm going to talk about 7 ways in which you can become a disruptor. We're going to talk about some different disruptors, and I'm going to share with you a book I'm reading by just an incredible disruptor right now that, I would hope that you would want to read too. So with that, let's get into the goods. So obviously I'm wearing a Pats jersey because I'm a massive New England Patriots fan and we are the AFC champions. So I just want to wear that today. Also, I ran a half marathon yesterday, and I have to tell you, I'm about to get a little graphic because it was actually my slowest half marathon ever. It wasn't pretty. I started off the race. I wasn't feeling 100% and I couldn't breathe very well. And I had that rattling thing going on in my lungs. I'm like, what the heck? Then at mile 5, I had to pull into a Walgreens. I don't know if what had happened to my body, but I'm not going to get that graphic on this Facebook Live. But I will tell you, it looked like someone had been shot in the Walgreens. And I spent 5 minutes of the race cleaning all that up. And then here I am, I can't breathe, I'm bleeding all over the place. And I'm like, I need to get the damn medal. That's what I need to do. So I took a salt tablet and I got my head on straight and I was like, I'm just doing this. And so I didn't walk and I finished, and here's the medal. So there you go. And so sometimes my message to you is we set goals for ourselves and things happen and it takes us longer than we anticipate, but you still cross the damn line, right? And that's what disruptors do. So before I get into this content, just a couple quick announcements. So if you like Bulletproof Mondays, go to susansly.com, sign up for my email, and check it out. I am not going to spam you, so don't worry about that. But I do send the notes to the people who subscribe, so I do that. And I send some insider tips. Also, I'm very transparent with my list. I don't hold back, so I write to you as though we're best friends. So if you're on that list, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So check it out, susansly.com. In April 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, I am doing an event here in Scottsdale, Arizona called Only 4 Days. And during Only 4 Days, we are going to cover all things digital, building sales pages, funnels, how to look amazing in video, copywriting. I have some amazing speakers coming in. Brennan Agronoff, who's a friend of mine, he was a millionaire at age 16. He built a company while he was in high school. He's been in Forbes and Fortune, everything. Now he's the ripe old age of 18, but he's going to share how he did it. He's so inspiring. JJ Burden, who is the smallest player in the NFL, released from 5 teams in 4 days. He's going to be there. We have just some amazing, amazing trainers. So check it out. And all that information is up on susansly.com. So check it out. I would love to see you there. All right, let's get into it. So when, in life, we all have this comfort zone. And for some of us, the comfort zone is a place where the moment we're there, we start to get a little agitated, like feeling a little complacent, and we'll go do something, like we'll enter a race or we'll do something to push ourselves. And the optics around people like that, myself included, people say, oh, you need to slow down, or your knees are going to go, or you're going to burn yourself out. And it's like, no, that's not the case, because my comfort zone is too uncomfortable. For average people, the comfort zone is really comfortable, but it's only comfortable at the surface. If you hear bells and stuff, I'm working from home today because it's a holiday. My kids are home. So I've got my door open. It's beautiful. So just if you hear that background noise, that's what it is. But this comfort zone place, it's on the surface, it's so comfortable and life is going on, but there's something deep internally that is not comfortable. And so sometimes what people do, they don't know how to really address it, and they don't even know what it is. And so they begin to do things, and they might drink to suppress the feelings. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's, I know a lot of millennials are juuling and, whatever. Maybe midlife crises, especially for men, are a real thing. Hormones begin to change. There's also this sense like, am I really achieving? And so, sometimes it can be like, oh, I buy a motorcycle, but sometimes it can be, and for women too, oh, I have an affair, or, I was very loyal to my partner. Now suddenly I find myself looking at other people in a sexual way. And those are very unhealthy feelings. Sometimes people stuff this feeling down with food, but in that comfort zone, which below the surface isn't comfortable, the only healthy way to get out of it is to challenge ourselves. And when we're challenging ourselves and we're achieving new things, we begin to feel fulfilled. We begin to feel accomplished. And I'll tell you, there's not one extramarital affair or drugs or drinking every night that is going to cause you to feel fulfilled. That is a well that is never going to be filled. The only way that well is going to be full is if you're doing something to shift from within. Does this make sense? So with that, I want to talk about these different ways we can disrupt ourselves. And when I was at the National Retail Federation last week, the CEO of Target, he was talking about disrupting yourself. And I really sat with that, and I mentioned it on last week's Bulletproof Monday, where this disrupting ourselves, and I meet a lot of people. I actually had an email from someone today, and they're in network marketing and things are not going well for them. And they're like, I'm just going back to work, and, this isn't going well for me. And, I'm looking at, I'm working so hard, but it's not working. And I'm going, well, maybe you need to disrupt yourself. Maybe you need to try to do things in a different way. Maybe you need to listen to some different people or change something within you. Because here's the reality that, who we're being is how the world responds to us. And we teach the world how to treat us. And when we begin to be disruptive in a very positive way, that's when the world responds in turn. Does that make sense? So let's talk about some people who are disruptors. One of the ones I wrote on my list for today is Tony Hsieh at Zappos. So Tony Hsieh said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have free shipping and free returns. Now, they were actually one of the first e-tailers to do this, and people are like, are you crazy? So someone can order 10 pairs of shoes and return them all for free. And they're like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And they grew that company to such a massive company. It was acquired by Amazon for, I believe, $1 billion. So Tony Hsieh is still the CEO over there, but Amazon owns it. And he was a massive disruptor. People are like, you're going to go bankrupt. No one's going to be able to sustain that. And look at him now. The next one I thought of was Reed Hastings at Netflix. So many of you remember Blockbuster. I talk about Blockbuster all the time. Reed Hastings is like, people are going to stream movies from their house, and we're going to charge, I believe initially Netflix, and some of you may remember, it was like, I don't know, $6 a month or $7 a month. They just raised the price. But anyway, they were like, no one's going to want to do that. And Blockbuster was like, no, people are still going to want to come to Blockbuster and get the popcorn. No. So he was so disruptive in the movie streaming space, and look at them now. And I believe their share price has gone up 50% in the last 30 days, just crazy. The next one, Elon Musk. So one of the things with Elon Musk over at Tesla and SpaceX is none of his designs are patented. So you could, if Jessica, who's here, if Jessica had a thing to make cars, she could actually go see essentially his recipe for how he does electric cars. And I was at a meeting with Intel Corporation last week, and we were talking about disruptors because they were looking at Radius, which is the tech company that I'm the president of, and they were going, oh my gosh, you guys are going to disrupt. And I was like, yes, because in Silicon Valley, you want to be a disruptor. The disruptors make the most money. And they were talking about Elon Musk and the patents, and they're like, what a disruptor, right? Another one was Oprah. Back in the day when she was on syndicated television, Oprah was a disruptor because she said, I'm going to do a book club. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but she had a lot of critics, even when she was pitching the idea. And they were like, what do you mean book club? And she did. And she suddenly had this, all of us, reading Tolstoy and Jane Austen and all these classics. And people are like, are you crazy? But the book sales went up, and more and more people started reading again, which was incredible. And it was so disruptive for the time. Another one, Rosa Parks. And, shouts out to Rosa Parks, because I want you to imagine, at that time, if you were a person of color, you always sat at the back of the bus. And she's like, forget you. That's not what she was thinking. Maybe something even, a little more intense than that. But I'm going to sit at the front of the bus. I'm a human being. I'm sitting at the front of the bus. There is no back of the bus. And it really shifted things. And she was a massive disruptor. And then Martin Luther King, of course, the Million Man March, I Have a Dream, and being disruptive, and Nelson Mandela. Zola Budd, she was an Olympic athlete and 10,000 meter runner. And she's like, I'm going to run in bare feet. And people are like, what? And I remember growing up watching Zola Budd. And one day I went to the track, and I'm like, I'm going to see if I can do one loop with bare feet. No, I don't even know how she did it. Jen Welter. I know Jen. I have a picture of her on my whiteboard. You guys can't see it. I should grab it and show you. But Jen was the first female coach in the NFL. Talk about disruptive, right? And then Tom Brady, of course, he's disruptive. People are making fun of his diet, but here he is in his 40s going to yet another Super Bowl. And I ran into a friend of mine today, and he owns a ticket company. He's like, Susan, if the Chiefs had won, I had 1,000 people on my waiting list for tickets and hotels and suites. And he goes, Patriots, people are like so sick of seeing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I'm not personally, but anyway, and Tom Brady's very disruptive. And there was this joke going around about, oh, he's going to celebrate with an almond. Well, Tom Brady follows a ketogenic diet. He eats very, very clean. He does, anti-inflammatory, everything, so he doesn't get sick. And and it is disruptive, because most people think athletes, it's like, oh, I'm gonna carb load the night before, or I'm gonna do all these different things. And he's being a disruptor. David Goggins. And so if you haven't read David Goggins' book, I love this book. So David Goggins was initially featured in Jesse Itzler's book. And I had Jesse on my podcast show, and Jesse wrote Living with a Navy SEAL, but he didn't say the name of the SEAL all through his book. He just calls him SEAL. And at the end, he reveals it's David Goggins. So I became very curious about David Goggins, and I started to listen to his interviews. He's an ultra marathon runner. I started watching YouTube videos about David Goggins. And in his book, Can't Hurt Me, which is really, I'm just going to lay it out. I've done speaking events and shared the stage with almost every personal development trainer you can name. And there are a lot of amazing trainers out there. And I will also say it's one thing to talk about something, it's another thing to live it. Goggins is living it. He's done the Badwater ultramarathon, which is the hardest ultramarathon in the world. He's done the Ironman. He's done, when you do a double Ironman, the Ultraman. I mean, he did Navy SEAL BUDS training 3 times. That's Hell Week. He passed Army Ranger training, which is apparently even harder than Hell Week. And so if you haven't read his book, I don't know, David, if you're watching this, I'd love to have you on my show. I have a ton of respect for him. This book will help you disrupt yourself. Okay, so there's lots of examples of disruptors. I'm looking at some of the people who are here live. My friend Laura Tesmer is a disruptor. Jessica, likewise, is a disruptor. Laura Mulvihill, my girlfriend Laura, who I've known since high school, is a disruptor. So many of you are disrupting in your own way, but it doesn't mean you can't take it to the next level. Because once you get to a place where you are never satisfied, and people are like, Susan, you're never satisfied. I'm like, satisfaction is boring. I can be grateful. I can be grateful that I've done the Ironman with a fractured pelvis, and I can be grateful that I've built very successful businesses and raised my kids, but I don't want to ever be complacent. I want to keep going, keep going, keep going. And when I take my last breath, I want to go, that was the best. It was awesome. And preferably after I do a marathon in my hundreds, and I'm the oldest woman to ever do a marathon. And then after I pass, cross the finish line and have a shot of tequila, that's going to be a good time for me to go. So anyway, let's talk about 7 things you can do to become a disruptor. And my goal for you is that 2019 is going to be a very disruptive year in a powerful way. So the first thing is getting uncomfortable physically was the first note I wrote. So if you're new to watching the show, I make notes for you. I spend quite a bit of time preparing. This isn't like me speaking on stages in front of 20,000 people where I prepare and mentally, I read your comments all week. I take note of everything you're chatting to me in my chat bot on Susan Sly, and I prepare for you based on things that you want and also things that are going on in my life. So let's talk about getting uncomfortably physically. It's one thing to sign up and say, well, I'm going to do a breast cancer walk, but and that's very noble. And I think it's awesome. But if you can easily walk 5K, sign up for a marathon, kick your own butt, sign up for kickboxing, do something where you have to physically compete. Some of you are telling yourselves a story. I'm too old. I don't have the right genetics. I have bad knees. Like, excuse me while I yawn, because I'm not going to buy my own excuses. So why would I buy yours? So I'm getting bored just thinking of the excuses. I don't care. I can think of examples of people who are older than you, have different things going on, and they're defying the odds. Going back to Goggins, he was over 300 pounds, and he was an exterminator, and he was so sick and toxic when he applied to go to the Navy SEALs. I mean, no excuses. Sign up today for a competition of some sort, and maybe it's a 1-mile race, maybe it's a cycling race, maybe it's a swim-a-thon, maybe it's a 24-hour relay. I don't care what it is. I spent the last couple of years recovering from illness in Africa, and occasionally I'm still dealing with treatment, just so you know. And yes, I ran the slowest damn half marathon that I've ever run. I ran a faster half marathon when I was pregnant for my son, but I will qualify for my 7th Boston this year. So I used it as a training run with a medal. I signed up for another half marathon next month, and I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do another one. And then by the time I get to my qualifying race, you damn well know I'm going to qualify. And, is it a big challenge? You might say, well, Susan, you've done 6 Boston marathons. Well, the competition keeps me sharp, and I'm not competing with anyone. I'm competing with myself, and that's what it's really about. Number 2 is get uncomfortable with your diet. Okay, some of you need to get really uncomfortable with your diet. Have you ever done a week-long fast? I have. So there's this place that I go to periodically called We Care, and it's in the desert. It's in Palm Springs, and I'll go and freaking fast for 7 days. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, basically you live on water and this special detox tea, and you do all this stuff. And it's interesting because when people say, oh, I'm going on a diet, they quit. But if you fast and you're like, that's it, I'm having nothing, that's it, it's almost easier, right? So get disruptive that way. Give up synthetic foods. Stop drinking wine every day. I don't know what it is you do, but get disruptive with your diet. Try something new. Try going keto for a bit. Do something. And people are like, keto's a fad. Keto's not a freaking fad. It was started in the 1930s to cure diseases like cancer. It's almost 100 years old. It's not a fad. Try something. All right. Number 3 is get uncomfortable emotionally. So last week, I made a list of everything that I've conquered. And I'm going to read you some of it, because why not? Why shouldn't I, right? Do you guys want to hear it? Sorry, I've got the sun streaming in my face. I'll just, as I said, if you tuned in a bit later, I'm working from home today. There we go. All right, you can see Mother Teresa there. All right, so here we go. I made a list of everything I've survived: kidnapping, sexual abuse, attempted rape, poverty. We were so poor. I took Monopoly money at the grocery store to buy groceries, bullying, beaten up, left alone at age 4, death threats, surviving correctional officer training, the Iron Man with a fractured pelvis, infidelity, nearly being kidnapped in Guatemala, an MS diagnosis, Lyme disease diagnosis, an amoeba, the Boston freaking bombing, like the list goes on. And I wrote this damn list, and I was like, you know what, Susan, you're a bit of a badass. I don't know if Facebook will publish this now since I said badass, but I am a badass. And I finished the list and I went, you know what? I'm freaking awesome. And here's the thing, you're awesome too. And there are things that you've survived, whether it's divorce or, a child who's been an addict and come back, or whatever it is, poverty, abuse, bullying, workplace bullying, I don't know, but if you've come out the other side, you're a freaking survivor, and you need to show up and be strong in yourself. And so make the list, and then make the list of what you've accomplished, right? Even little things, like I wrote my degree. Okay, so I have a science degree, but the cool thing was I left home when I was 15, and I was done my whole degree by the time I was like 18, 19 years old. So I made a list, becoming a self-made millionaire, writing 7 books, getting my pro card for triathlon, 6 Boston marathons, moving my family to the United States, having babies. I made the list, and you know what? Afterwards, I felt incredible. And I want you to feel incredible. And you may be like, but Susan, I haven't accomplished as much as you have. You probably haven't, even more. Enough with the faux self-pity and, faux humility. I'm not talking about being prideful. I'm talking about how the posture you carry yourself with. It's how you show up in the world. You have accomplished more than you think you have, and make a note of it. All right, number 4 is get uncomfortable mentally. Okay, sign up for a course of some sort just to disrupt you. So this year I'm taking options training. I meet this guy on the plane going to New York, and it turns out he's a financial advisor. He's like, why would you take an options course? Like, he might as well have patted me on the head. Why would you take an options course, dear? And I said, you don't know me. It's what I do. I take courses and things so I can disrupt myself, so I can learn. And he's like, well, very few people make money in options. And I said, well, I'm very few people. Right? And so, that's just what I'm doing this year. One year it was all my NLP certifications in a year. Last year was a bunch of digital marketing certifications. I don't know, but I'm constantly challenging myself to learn new things. So you can take courses and do those things. All right, learn Mandarin on YouTube. Do what you need to do. Number 5, this is my favorite one. Volunteer for a charity that puts you in touch with reality. Some of you all are not living in reality. You're like, oh, poor me, it's minus 40 degrees, but you're in your nice warm friggin' house. You're not sleeping on a grate in Toronto as a homeless person. Give me a break. The things you're complaining about are the things that people would freaking love to have. You're complaining about your husband. Well, some other woman would probably want your husband. You're probably saying no, but true, it is. Maybe your kids are driving you nuts, but talk to a couple who can't have children. They would love to have that problem. I have friends, and he works for the government, and it's the government shutdown, and she's like, I don't know if this goes on, how we're going to pay our bills. And seriously, really, you have a roof over your head, you have food on your table. So, in my own life, when I've needed to disrupt myself, that's when I'll run off to Cambodia or Africa, because there's nothing like being face to face with poverty or trafficking or polluted oceans or abused animals or whatever it is. My friend Gordy, he doesn't even tell anyone he does this, but he'll go down on a Friday night and volunteer to just feed the people who are homeless. For years when I was in Toronto, there's an amazing charity called Sistering, and we would go down there and feed the gals in the in their soup kitchen. And so there are all sorts of things. And if you're in this place of complacency and maybe you've set a goal for yourself and you're not achieving, make it not about you and disrupt yourself. My friend Stephanie Blackbird, follow her on Facebook. She befriended in the middle of a desert this homeless gentleman named Alan, and she and her husband Alan, they have taken him to the hospital and they're getting him treatment and therapy. And I was talking to her this morning and she's like, it looks like he might have cancer. And so, she's like totally turned her life around to help this perfect stranger. And she said, Susan, it's been such an amazing experience, because even though it's a lot of time, it's putting so many things into perspective. So what can you do to do that? And number 6 is stop caring about what people think. Those other people, they don't pay your bills. Who cares? So you're starting a business and people are like, oh, businesses fail. Well, who cares? That person who said that stupid stuff to you, they don't pay for your kids to go to hockey camp. They don't pay for you, your mortgage, your car payment, your taxes. They don't pay any of that stuff for you. Who cares? I could tell you all of the people, and I kept names and records in my mind, who told me I was going to fail. And there's nothing like proving people wrong. Anyway, last one is set a goal for yourself that makes you freaking sweat. One of the things with setting big goals is, I love what Grant Cardone says, it's going to take you 10 times longer and you're going to have to do 10 times the effort in order to achieve the goal. But who cares? Most people will give up before they actually achieve the goal. It's like yesterday, doing the half marathon, going through what I went through, my physical body, most people would have called an audible and said, I'm done. I'm like, no, I'm done when I cross the finish line. If I have to crawl, if, whatever happens, I'm still getting the freaking medal and I'm going to cross. And it's what I do. Even when I did the Ironman with a fractured pelvis and a hematoma the size of a grapefruit, not finishing was not an option, because that isn't how I was wired. I was, physically, sexually abused as a kid. I could have been wired a different way. I chose to do my own wiring because I'm constantly disrupting myself. I wire myself. It's not about my genetics. It's not about my upbringing. It's not about anything. It's how I program my own mind as an adult. It's the same thing for all of you. And so set a goal for yourself that makes you sweat. I've had friends who said, they're going to climb Kilimanjaro. They did that. Or it might be a financial goal, or it's writing your book. Or my friend Stephanie, again, who's helping Alan, the man she met in the middle of the desert. She was like, I'm going to put my own product out in the world. And she did. She's going to be teaching at only 4 days how she went from an idea to creating a physical product that she's marketing digitally. It's up on Amazon and stuff like that. So, whatever it is for you, find something that is going to make you sweat and something you can go for and be bold. And I'm just going to finish with this. For some of you, today's message might not be comfortable because you're not ready to disrupt yourself. And you're still in this mode where it's easier to be critical. It's easier to be gossipy. It's easier to be whatever it is that you're doing. But there is going to come a point in your life where you're going to have a decision. Do you want to change things, or are you going to be a victim of circumstance? And as anyone will tell you who's going along in life starts to speed up as we get older. And so the choice really comes down to, if you complained about anything about your life in the last 7 days, it's time to be a disruptor. And the first person you have to disrupt is yourself. So with that, God bless. You guys are awesome. Again, you can come visit me on susansly.com. If you want these notes, sign up for my newsletter. I will send them out to you. More than likely this week, it's going to be Wednesday. So go to susansly.com, sign up, and I'll send them out to you. So with that, God bless. You guys rock it, and I will see you next Monday. Bye, everyone.